In the world of today, it seems there is no value for human lives anymore. Day after day, we are bombarded with news about wars after war. From Russia and Ukraine to Israel and Hamas, from India and Pakistan to Israel and Iran, and so on and so forth. Little do we comment on wars that are strictly religious. In this video, I'm going to bring to you situations in Benue State of Nigeria where Christians are being massacred. Watch this video and see for yourself what is going on in Nigeria.
So it was after dark in Yelwata town in Benue State when the avenging gunmen struck. By the next morning, all that was left were dozens of charred bodies burnt beyond recognition and thousands of shattered lives. It's the latest in yet another wave of attacks between cattle herders and farmers, violence that has simmered for years and which the authorities have struggled to contain. Nigeria's National Emergency Management Agency says it's working with aid agencies to help thousands of people displaced by the violence in a territory where the majority Muslim north meets the predominantly Christian south. The Catholic pontiff, Pope Leo, has joined millions of Nigerians in mourning what the Vatican called a brutal massacre. President Tinubu called the recent upsurge in attacks depressing and inhuman. He's due to visit Benue State on Wednesday, his first visit there since coming to office 2 years ago. So what can he do to bring peace to Benue State and the rest of the Middle Belt region? By Reverend Father Patrick Alumuku, OON, Director of Communications at the Catholic Archdiocese of Abuja, and Father Alumuku is from Benue State. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you again.
Thank you so much, Charles.
What's your reaction to this recent upsurge in violence in your home state of Benue?
Charles, is a situation that is lamentable, unacceptable, could have been taken care of ahead of time. One event too many. The state of Benue has suffered a lot in the past number of years, not just in the past 2 years under this administration, but in successive administrations, one thought this would be taken care of. I want to thank Pope Leo XIV tonight for the awareness creation, because the whole world is abuzz. The media is talking about it. Today I received calls from Germany, from Italy, from France. There are people who want to come and visit. There are journalists who want to come and see what is happening here to report back to their people. I want to thank the United Nations for their voice today to say this is unacceptable, and the United Nations Secretary General who has spoken. I want to thank the Amnesty International, who says that justice must be made to bear in this circumstance. It's a situation that I think as a nation we must work towards ensuring that it's brought to an end.
And when you mentioned that all these people are phoning you from abroad, when they ask you, why is this happening, what do you say to them?
Well, I think that the story of Benue is very much known abroad, much more than we tend to think about it here, because the story, whether of Boko Haram or whether of herders and the situation in the Middle Belt, is actually one that the media in Europe is very concerned about.
Well,
so,
what I'm asking is, what do you say to them is behind it? Is it competition for land? Is it fueled by religious and ethnic divisions? Is it something else?
Just, this is a very good question you're asking, because I think that what actually has happened is that nobody is telling the truth about the problem in Benue and the Middle Belt. And we are wanting to be politically correct by saying, and I saw that in a major statement today, by saying that there is no religion involved in this crisis. Well, a statement today from the office of the SGF, for example, who said it's not about...
Secretary to the government.
Yeah, Secretary to the government, who said there is no religion involved in this, there's no ethnicity, it's an economic situation.
And you believe that there is religion and ethnicity?
Of course I do believe.
Well, tell us why.
Because this is not the first time. The people of Benue know that they have had an issue of jihadism in the past 100 years, that ended up in Benue. The people who took the jihad, who will never want to end, want to continue that jihad. The last jihad ended up in Benue. I used to joke with my Igbo friends and brothers and said, you know, Christianity is actually stabilized in Igbo land because we stopped the jihad in Benue. And so they want to continue that jihad, and the Benue is the center for them of that jihad. They believe that once they're able to overrun Benue, then they can reach the ocean, as they had always thought. And this is the narrative that nobody wants to talk about. We want to be politically correct, and therefore we are saying, oh, well, there's nothing religious about this, or there's actually nothing even ethnic about this. You're talking about a people who are going into Benue to massacre people from week to week. And when the matter comes up, they say, oh, well, you know, please try and find reconciliation with the people. When did the Fulanis, who are doing the massacre in Benue, become members of Benue? The state was created in the 70s. The languages that are used on the radio are Tiv, Idoma, Igede, and Etulo. Where is the Fulani community in Benue? And now you are saying reconcile with the people who are there. How do you reconcile with the people whom you do not know? These guys come in the night, they come by river, they come by canoe, they get out of the canoe, they get out and go out and kill people, get back into the canoes and run back. They don't belong to Benue. They hope that continually, by decimating the people who are in the north of the Benue, they will be able to occupy that land, drive them out as they are, kill the people, they destroy the churches, they burn the homes, they take over, they take the people's food and offer to cows, and gradually they are inching into Benue. This is the situation, and that's the story which I like to tell anybody. And it's an unfortunate situation, because I think that the government is taking this matter not as seriously as it should. The same situation we have in Plateau, the same situation we have in Benue. Overrun Plateau, overrun Benue, and then move on. This is a story that must be told, and that story must be told openly, and we don't need to be politically correct. We want to be able to solve a problem. You must get to the root cause of the problem.
Indeed. And so, given what you're saying, although, as you said, the government of the Federation, the SGF's office is disputing that, and so are some other people, what do you expect? It seems like, based on what you're saying, it's important for President Tinubu to actually go to Benue State and get to the heart of the matter. Because if what you're saying is the heart of the matter, then it's important for him to understand that, because that's the way to solve the problem, isn't it?
Precisely. And this is why I thought it's important for us to put this on the table. And President Tinubu must understand this before he puts petrol on the fire in Benue. Yesterday, the statement that came out from Bayo Onanuga said...
That's one of the president's spokesmen.
The president's spokesman say that the people of Benue ought to reconcile among themselves, reconcile with the people who are killing them. Who are these people who are killing them? Do they know them? So how do you reconcile with someone whom you cannot even see?
That's a good point, because I put that point to the governor of Benue State when he was on this program yesterday.
Yeah. So how do you dialogue with someone whom you cannot see? The two of us are dialoguing now. You and I can talk about whatever issues. Those guys, nobody knows them. Nobody knows the address. They come in the night in hundreds. They kill in the night and they go. So the issue that is actually at stake here, which nobody is talking about, and I would like the president to address it. The United Nations is asking him to do so, and the Amnesty International is asking him to do so, and Pope Leo is asking him to do so, is to find out who is doing the massacring of the people, who is doing the killing, and to bring them to justice. Nobody is saying we must bring these people to justice.
So your assumption is that the president doesn't actually understand what is going on.
Precisely. I think he does not understand. He does need to understand the situation that's going on. And if he does not, then he goes in there and he can make a statement or make statements that are going to be inflammatory. They are going to make things worse. I think it's important for us to let the president know that there is a situation on the ground which he needs to understand properly and to address adequately when he's on the ground.
The government says it is not a religious war against Christians, but it has drawn the attention of Pope Leo, who took some minutes before Sunday Angelus to condemn this act and prayed for the victims.
Nella notte tra il 13 e il 14 giugno, nella città di Yelewata, nell'area amministrativa locale di Guma, nello stato di Benue, in Nigeria, si è verificato un terribile massacro in cui circa 200 persone sono state uccise con estrema crudeltà, la maggior parte delle quali erano sfollati interni, ospitati dalla missione cattolica locale. Prego affinché la sicurezza, la giustizia e la pace prevalgano in Nigeria, paese amato e così colpito da varie forme di violenza. E prego in modo particolare per le comunità cristiane rurali dello Stato di Benue, che incessantemente sono stati vittime della violenza.
You see it? The director of Catholic Communications also affirmed it during this interview with the local news channel. Just watch this.
And you mentioned Pope Leo. I mean, he is the Catholic pontiff. Of course, he's the head of your church, the Catholic Church. I mean, he's been offering prayers in supplication over what has happened in Benue State. And his voice does carry a lot of political and moral weight. But I'm wondering whether or not he's getting involved in it because there's a religious, you're saying there's a religious element.
He has information in this regard. He has very clear and strong information in this regard. And that's why I'm saying, he would not want to get into the politics of Nigeria, but he's appealing because he knows that the people who are being massacred are members of his church. In fact, we are hearing that the bulk of the people who were killed in this attack are people who were kept in an IDP camp that is actually run by the Catholic Church. And so when that happens, then immediately through the nunciature and through the church in Nigeria, information gets to Rome. And he does that not only for Nigeria, but for whatever parts of the world where Catholics are affected. He makes appeals. But we are quite happy about this because it was so fast and so sharp, because it was he that actually brought to the awareness of Nigerians the seriousness of what happened in Yelewata. And I think that we're quite pleased with what he has done. And I think he has walking the consciousness of our Nigerian leadership, in the political class, of what is happening. Because how many times have people been killed? There was a time under Otom's government where we buried 97 people. there were 97 corpses that were put together in the stadium in Makurdi, at which we had a mass and had to bury them. This is happening at Christmas. This is happening at Easter. This is happening in the New Year. At periods when Christians are meeting and celebrating, this is when these people strike, most of the time.
Well, let's look at potential solutions, because I seem to remember, you mentioned Governor Autumn. I seem to remember that he enacted a law for the prohibition of open grazing. The machinery appeared to have been set up for that law to be implemented. Livestock guards, we're told, were put in place to try to ensure that cattle do not graze openly and randomly. But there are allegations that the current government has relaxed all this. Is that a fact?
Yeah, well, I think that there was not a very clear understanding at the beginning of this present administration.
The state administration.
The state administration, right. Yes. I think that in the course of the campaign, there was not a very clear understanding between one party and the other. But the problem has remained, because it is not a problem that actually began under Otom. It was there under Suswam's government, then under Otom's government, and the situation is exacerbated right now under the government of Father Alia, who is doing a lot indeed, unknown to many people, but trying to ensure that it does not escalate the situation.
Right.
It's trying to ensure that this can be taken care of. My worry at this particular moment is that the military is unable to carry out even the commands of the head of state, who say to them, for example, take care of this situation. He told us a couple of days back.
Unable, what do you mean?
Well, unable in the sense that they have not been able to move in to act.
Right.
And that is quite disheartening, because they could have done so much. There are groups of military attachments in Makurdi. And I can tell you, Charles, that it's like staying here at the Hilton, and there are people out around Asokoro who are attacking the city, and the military is here, and the military is doing nothing for week upon week and from month to month, and nothing is being done. So it looks as if there is some collusion between the military and these bandits, because the distance, if you know the distance where these people operate, it's so short that even if they walked on foot, they will be able to meet them halfway.
Due to the government inaction, youths and activists took to street to protest against this barbaric action by these armed militia groups.
As early as 8 a.m., protesters converged on the Wurukum food basket roundabout in Makurdi, the capital of Benue State, to demand action over the alleged killings across the state.
What do I want? What do you want? What do you want?
The latest killing happened in the early hours of Saturday, June 14, in communities under Guma local government area of the state. Before then, there were reports of killings in other parts of the state, including Gweri West and Apa local government area of the state. The demonstrators, dressed in black and carrying banners, leaves and placards, chant solidarity songs. Initial attempts to stop them by security agencies, including policemen and soldiers, was rebuffed by the youth. However, things escalated as policemen shot tear gas to disperse the protesters.
About 100 persons were killed late Friday when gunmen stormed Yelewata village in Guma local government area of Benue State, Nigeria, in one of the deadliest attacks recorded in the region this year. In response to the killings, hundreds of youths took to the streets of Massacred, the state capital, on Sunday to protest what they described as government inaction and worsening insecurity. The Yelewata massacre comes just a day after armed herders reportedly attacked Yelewata and Daudu towns in the same Guma local government area of the state. Reacting to this latest attack in Benue, Pope Leo has offered prayers for the victims of the fresh massacre in the state. Delivering his remarks just before the Sunday Angelus prayer, the Pope described the violence as particularly devastating, noting that most of the victims were internally displaced persons sheltered by a local Catholic mission in Yelewata, Guma, local government area. Joining us on this show now to discuss the situation in Benue State is Mark Bila, former Benue House of Representatives member, and Gwaza Madaki, lawyer and public affairs analyst. Welcome to the morning show, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bati.
Well, very quickly,
Thank you very much.
We'll commiserate with the people of Benue State. Just as we say, government has a responsibility to stop Benue killings. But you are involved. And you, Mark Bila, you are from Guma local government area.
Yes.
Let's start with you. You are with us in the studio in Lagos. You know, how you feel and what you think should be done. And then we'll come back almost immediately to you, Mr. Madaki, in our Abuja studio.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Dr. Bati, for having me. The situation is beyond description. It is painful. It is a time of sorrow for our people. More so that this is not the first time, and particularly painful because the venue, the place where this occurred is one that ordinarily we would think is protected. I say this because Yelewata is a border town between Benue and Nasarawa State. And at that border town, there is a military checkpoint that has been there for at least 5 years. This military checkpoint is populated with not less than 15 soldiers, I think headed by a captain or thereabout. I'm not specific, I don't know the exact rank of the officer in charge, but there is a permanent feature of the Nigerian army located in Yelewata. So it becomes difficult to understand how these attacks could go on between 10 to 11 p.m. midnight and last for hours all the way to the early mornings without any intervention by this very formation that is right at the doorstep of Yelewata. Dr. Bati, if you move from Nasarawa State to Benue, Yelewata is on the road. It is not a village, maybe a kilometer. No, it is directly on the road. It's one of those villages where the Catholic church is by the road, the primary school is by the road, the market is by the road, and everything is by the road. And if you look at the pictures, for the houses that were burnt, broken down, and killed, and the people that were killed inside those houses, you could simply look at them in their rooms and then take the camera all the way back to the road. It's difficult to understand, and for us in Guma local government, we're in a state of shock and perhaps feeling like orphans, feeling abandoned by those who have the responsibility to protect and safeguard the lives of our people and their properties. Now, we have a situation where a few weeks ago when these same killings happened in Daudu and a couple of other places in Agan, Mr. President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had directed that the Chief of Army Staff should relocate to Benue State and resolve this matter. I can tell you that, yes, the army chieftain got to Benue State, met with his officers, because Benue State hosts two army formations. There is the Nigerian Army School of Engineering, and then there is the 72 Special Forces Battalion. All of them are in North Bank. Agan, the village that was attacked a week or 2 weeks ago, is 200 meters away from the fence of the 72 Special Forces Battalion. Now, when the military chieftain got to Makurdi, he met with his people, and in awaiting his arrival, stakeholders had been put together. The Tortiv, the Ochidoma, religious leaders, chairmen and youths, people of thought, and all stakeholders in the security sector were assembled at Government House so that they will have an interaction. I tell you, the man did not spend a minute with them. After meeting with his army, meeting with one or two other peoples, and meeting with the governor, he simply left. We don't know whether he was still in Benue. We don't know whether he returned to Abuja. But all we know is that for the Tortiv and the Ochidoma and the first-class chiefs that came from all the local governments that are affected by this violence, the man did not meet with them. And then you have a situation where we understand that perhaps the army acts on orders. But how can you not act when there are gunshots right on your doorstep? It creates situations for us. Now, for yesterday, the protest that happened in Makurdi, it was one of those times that you sit and you wish that you were around to be part of that outing, because that is the only way the people can express the angst and the emotion that has built in them to witness these kind of things. But again, the way everything happened and eventually got a little bit disrupted and all of that, we are at least hopeful and grateful that we had the opportunity to come out and express ourselves.
Okay.
Local government area,
Okay.
practically the fulcrum of these attacks, one of the very severely affected parts of Benue State. Thank you very much for having me on the show. I want to start by expressing my sincere condolences to my people in Gwe West, in Guma, in Ukum, in other parts of Benue State, and even in Plateau State over these killings. I want to express my condolences to the military personnel who were killed and the civil defense officer and other security operatives that have lost their lives. We want to thank them for their service and their sacrifice that they are making on behalf of my people. I want to also use the opportunity very quickly to thank His Eminence, the Pontiff, the Pope, for even responding quicker than our president and our governor to the event that happened, to the massacre of our people. And I want to use the opportunity to inform the international public, the Vatican, the well-meaning people all over the world that Benue State is under siege. This is a pogrom of our people. A genocide is taking place. There's a war against our people. And Mr. President, I want to use this opportunity to emphasize the fact that there's a war against people in a part of your country. Let me say that yesterday, there's an age-old adage, even in several cultures, that you cannot beat people up and stop, or cannot beat a child up and stop the child from crying. When our people cried out, when we embarked upon our legitimate constitutional duty to protest, we were confronted with tear gas, with scores of personnel who from nowhere came out, who are not able to confront these killers but are able to confront protesters. We saw helicopters hovering over protesters, helicopters that we did not see go to Yelwata and intercept the people. So we're concerned about what is happening. Some of us have waited and have given the president, the governor, the benefit of doubt to intervene. But after 2 years, we cannot keep quiet anymore, including those who were declared as representatives of the people. 2 years later, and nothing seems to be happening. I have to point out immediately now what was shocking and of a concern to me in the statement made by Mr. President. And let me quote very clearly. Mr. President, first of all, mentioned that he has asked that an implementation of his earlier directive, meaning he gave an initial directive that apparently was not followed. He has to now give a follow-up directive. That is one. Number two, he is saying that in the latest round of reprisal attacks, Mr. President, it appears as if some people are not giving you the right information. Mr. President is being misinformed and ill-advised. There is no such thing as reprisal attacks going on. Our people are under siege. Mr. President asked the governor to convene reconciliation meetings and dialogue among warring communities, warring parties. Those are the words used by Bayo Onanuga. And then seek harmonious existence between farmers, herders, and communities. I'm aware that there seems to be a lot of sycophancy in the country right now. So, Mr. President, with all due respect, if you need to be told the truth, you can ask us, the people. Some of us can come and tell you what is actually going on. You can liaise with our governor. I believe he should be honest enough to tell you the truth. There's no such thing as reprisal attacks. If you say seek harmonious relationship and have reconciliation meetings, that means, Mr. President, you know who has attacked us. That means the governor knows who has attacked us and is supposed to call them together for a meeting. Okay. Is that what is being told? Because that is what I deduce from that statement. And that, I believe, is disingenuous to the situation. There is no such thing as reprisal attacks, I'll repeat for the umpteenth time. These are premeditated, unprovoked attacks against the people. I know that recently, Mieti Allah made a public statement claiming that one of their members was killed and that 1,000 of their cows or so were rustled. Immediately I heard that, I knew that something like this was going to happen. And I wonder where our security agents are. Where is the intelligence when they do not know? It is always reactive and not proactive. And when it happened, I said, this is exactly what I knew would happen.
The worst part of it is there has been little or no humanitarian assistance provided to the affected community, either the government-run emergency service or the United Nations. Listen to this.
Go to cite one side. Let's talk about the humanitarian crisis. NEMA says over 1,000 households are affected. A lot of people displaced. What is happening on ground as regards the humanitarian crisis in Benue? And the number, they peg it as close to 200. Some are saying it's way more than that. What have you heard as regards what's happening on ground? And I will also come to you back in the studio. Let's talk about, NEMA says over 1,000 households are affected. Thousands and thousands of people are displaced. What do you know?
Yes. Yes. So let me say that it is also concerning when you hear reports, official reports claiming only 59 people have been killed. Very credible media outlets have reported that over 100, some saying over 200, and feelers and information I'm receiving from our people on the ground say actually that number is more in the range of 200. So yes, obviously that means thousands, over 1,000 households are affected. And we have probably hundreds of thousands of internally displaced, people. So now what that means is there are people who need intervention. I am aware that at the moment, the state government is providing some succor to the people, but this is not sufficient. I've heard complaints from people that they're not being properly catered for. NEMA made a one-off intervention, just like the UN did, contrary to when in Borno, NEMA was making monthly interventions, and we're demanding that that same kind of attention be accorded to our people. And we think it is time Mr. President comes to see for himself On behalf of my people of Benue, we want to demand, Mr. President, we believe we should be important enough. The killing, the massacre should be important enough for you to come yourself and see what is happening. All over the world, the commander-in-chief comes to meet with his troops, comes to the ground to see what is happening. Just like my brother in the studio in Lagos said, the Chief of Army Staff, not only the Chief of Army Staff, the NSA came to Benue, they just came to Makurdi. None of them went to meet with the troops, to my knowledge. I'm even just hearing that the Chief of Army Staff did not meet with our eminent...
This attack by the Christian communities actually has been going on for a long time, as many has been in internally displaced camps since 2017.
Aki, what are you going to say as regards the humanitarian crisis? Over 1,000 households and thousands of people in Yeltwa have been displaced. Do you have any information on ground as regards what's going on there and what can be done to help the people?
Okay, so there have been people living in IDP camps since 2016, 2017. And as of today, I can say that there are about 17 IDP camps across the state. We're talking about 17 IDP camps hosting more than 1,000 families. You know, when you say families, you know what that means. It's not just 1,000, more than 1,000 families across 17 IDP camps across the state. Now, we all know that issues of succor and emergency are not just state-based. They also fall under the purview of the federal government as well. So, as much as intervention that can be gotten and as much support that can be secured for our people will be very much welcome, because they live in squalor. It is a difficult situation to look at. And then for those that are also housed by charity organizations like the Catholic Church, for example, to now get attacked like what happened in Yelwata, it particularly is a very painful situation. We know that, like my brother, Honorable Igbila, has stated, that NEMA has a structure.
The question that I would like you to answer is, why are Christians been killed in Nigeria?